Hi, everybody. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, Texas on Monday, January the 12th. And welcome to our commentary. Welcome to our weekly chat with our good friend Bill Katz, the editor of Urgent Agenda. Bill, Happy New Year. I think for the second time I've told you that this year. And
Yes, Happy New Year.
welcome to the exciting, I guess 2026 is going to be an exciting year. In fact, I want to get this quickly here at the beginning of the conversation because there's so much serious stuff to do, but just a little fun conversation here at the beginning. It was 60 years ago today that ABC featured a program called Batman. And this Batman was not quite the comics that my father used to read, but nevertheless, it was Adam West used to play Batman. And then there was a young man who played Robin. I don't remember his name, but he was kind of a nicer, I don't know, nicer Robin than the comics. But this was a pretty successful show, and it must have had one of the greatest musical intros of all time, Bill.
Yes, bum 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 bum
Right.
bum bum, and everybody run around singing that Batman, and
And there
they had
was,
because
in fact, sorry to interrupt you for a minute there, but there was, in fact, a 45, a 45 RPM record. They used to call them singles. That was
yes,
actually on the radio of that intro. It wasn't just on the TV. That it actually some band recorded that, and it was a
yeah,
hit on the radio as well.
yes,
So anyway, so Batman was on the radio today for the first time, and I thought it was great. I love that show, Bill.
yeah,
I don't know if you
and
remember that show.
there were later movies, theater
Yes, there
movies,
was. Right,
and they flashed the logo for Batman on bridges
right.
and on schools and everything, and you could really be part of the action.
Gotham City. That was the name of the
Gotham
city
City,
where the bat and the commissioner
yes,
was there, and Albert, the guy who ran the house, I guess, who they had that basement where the Batmobile would go into. Now, I don't
that's
know
right.
if this was true. Now, this was on the show. I don't know if this was true also on the comics, but
Yeah,
they had a cave that they would go into and hide the Batmobile, and they go
the Bat
down
Cave.
these the Bat Cave, yeah.
That's right.
So, and this thing was so popular, Bill. Maybe you remember this, but this thing was so popular. This show was so popular that a year or so later they came out with Batgirl,
Yeah,
and
yes.
and Batgirl was she would go around in this little motorcycle, this kind of girly motorcycle that she would go around,
Yes.
and that
Now
was it was not
today you couldn't call it Batgirl. You'd have
no.
to say Bat alternative gender.
That's it. That's it. You couldn't be as even Batman would probably run into trouble today. It would have to be Bat person, I guess. But
Yes,
um, I always thought that was such a neat show.
it was.
And you were telling me something off before the show that when you were a kid, you used to listen to this on the radio, right?
Oh,
And then you would
sure,
come
sure.
home and you had your menu of shows you would listen to, Bill.
That's exactly right. I called them my programs. And you going home from school and you turned on, I think it was WABC in New York, but I don't remember. And they had just about everything you could want. You listen to these shows year after year after year. And if you were a good boy or alternative gender, you could go to the store and buy a bottle of Ovaltine, which was the sponsor. And if you sent the label in from Ovaltine showing that you had actually bought it, and I think 25 cents in coin, they would say coin, you could get little gifts from Batman. And they had the Batman, well, I don't even know what they call it, the glow in the dark. That's all that I know. And I got
Yeah.
my Batman glow in the dark, whatever it was. I hung it in the what they call the wardrobe in school, and it was gone in a day. So
Right.
apparently there were some little Batmans running around.
Well, what was interesting about those shows on the radio is that I've had a chance, or those radio shows, I've had a chance to go back, and I remember one time I went to the school library at the university library, and I checked out a bunch of those because I wanted to listen to them. And I have to tell you that they were so well done
Yes.
that in many ways, I'll have to say that in many ways, they were better than the TV show because there was a lot more. You had to be more engaged
Yes.
in the show because on TV you saw everything.
Yes.
But
And
the
you had to have an imagination.
right, that's right, and I thought they were really well done. Perry Mason, no, not Perry Mason. Uh, the what was that?
The Green Hornet.
The
The
Green
Green
Hornet.
Hornet.
Yeah, the Green
Yes.
Hornet. The Lone Ranger was also on the
Ba-da-dum,
radio.
ba-da-dum, ba-da-dum,
Yeah,
bum, 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 bum. The Lone Ranger rides again. Bum,
yeah.
bum, bum. And it was the Million Tale Overture.
That's right, and most people didn't know that. I
They,
took me a long time to know that they were actually that I was being introduced to classical music.
that you
By,
were. That's exactly right.
I was being introduced to classical music by watching the Lone Ranger. So I there, but that's interesting because there was another movie too that came out back in those days. Anna, what was that? Fantasia. That was all classical music too.
Yeah. I
The
don't
Mickey
remember
Mouse,
that one.
the Mickey Mouse movie. But anyway, just a little fun there. 60 years ago today, Batman. That's Adam West playing Batman. And yes, there was a couple of movies that he made as
Yes.
well. And Batman or Adam West passed away a couple of years ago.
Ah,
And all I remember was my sister and my brother and I would watch Batman at 6:30 Central Time, and my sister would say, "Batman is so handsome," and, and I said, "Well, okay, I guess he is." So
yeah.
he was a handsome guy, He was a handsome guy, and the girls liked him a great deal. Well, let's get into some of the serious stuff because there is a lot of serious stuff. Two big stories this week that I like to chat with you about, Bill. One is Iran, and the other one is Minneapolis, um, or the events of Minneapolis. Let's go to that one first, Minneapolis.
Okay.
They're both important, but let's just go with that one first. There, I think you had the sad consequences of these sanctuary cities
Sure.
where you're playing with fire, and you see the video. I mean, a lot of it's on video now, and you see the video being totally this woman being totally disrespectful to the police officer. Uh, and then, of course, unfortunately, she gets shot, and now she is a victim of
Yes.
Trump. I guess she's a victim of Trump.
A victim of Trump. Yes.
Yeah, and I'm sitting there saying, I actually feel sorry for this lady. I have
Of
to tell
course.
you, because obviously she was killed, and she's a mother of, I guess, 3 kids, so that's bad. But I think this woman, Bill, was totally misguided.
Yes.
Somebody's giving her some very bad advice
Yes.
about what.
In a way, brainwashed.
Yes. And they're being told things about what ICE is doing that are completely false. ICE is not arresting grandmothers. They're not walking into people's homes and pulling them out like Gestapo or whatever. Usually they have a warrant to get somebody.
Yes.
And
And
when
they had a
they,
warrant. And they had a warrant for this woman.
that's right. And usually in places like Texas and Florida and most other places, they never have to go into the neighborhood to find this person. They can just simply go to the local police and say, "Hey, we're looking for this guy or this lady." And they'll say, "Yeah, we've got him here in jail, or we'll help you find them because we know where they are." And it's a much smoother operation, Bill. I don't want to get too long-winded, but I'll just say one more thing. There was recently a very big operation here in Texas, now, about 20 miles from here. And it was a huge nightclub. ICE showed up, arrested 40 people. 30 of them have a rap sheet, huge rap sheet. A lot of it is prostitution and bringing in young women from Central America and all of that. And the operation was very smooth. In fact, you didn't really find out about it until after the story. And it was a cooperation of ICE, the local police, the state police, state agencies, and the ATF. They all worked together, and this thing
Yes.
was done rather smoothly.
Yes.
And nobody even knew about it. I mean, we'd learned about it after the fact, when it happens, but nobody, they weren't people in the streets marching or throwing rocks at
Mm.
ICE or whatever. And I guess that's the difference between a sanctuary city and not a sanctuary city, Bill.
Well, the sanctuary cities are democratic cities, and they are set up to protect people who are here illegally, or as they say, undocumented. I love the word undocumented people, from the police or from anybody else. And for example, New York City is a sanctuary city, and they would take in immigrants who were supposedly here illegally, and they would give them shelter and they would give them other things. And the whole idea really behind it was to convince people that these people were at risk, even though they had done nothing wrong, but they very often had done a lot wrong. And they became really part of in a way, part of the Democratic Party. Now that shouldn't smear the entire party, but the whole idea of a sanctuary city where people could in effect break the law and not get into any trouble, in fact, be protected, I think offends most Americans.
I think so too, because it just goes against your sense of fair play. Um, did I miss you, Bill? Did I lose you?
No, I'm here.
Oh, okay. No, I just
Yep.
thought for a second. But the other thing that bothers me a lot, Bill, and why I think this particular story in Minneapolis is going to backfire on the Democrats is that I think most people. I'll talk about myself. When when our sons, and I have three of them, when they got their driver's license and you gave them a key to go out on a Saturday night, you always had a little chat with him, before they
Yes.
went out. And one of the things you mentioned to them was, look, you're going out in the real world now, and sometimes things happen. And if you're stopped by a police officer, remember he's the authority and you just do what he says.
Yes,
You
that's
don't fight
exactly
with the
right.
police. You don't want to be a hero. You don't want to be a civil rights hero in front of your friends. You just accept that the police officer stopped you. Now, if you feel that he did something wrong, we've got lots of options after that. But at that moment, the policeman is the authority. And that lady, the way she was talking to the police, and I guess her companion or whatever too, were talking to the police. And what I've seen on TV in many of these places, the way ICE is treated, that is incorrect. That should not be allowed, Bill.
Of course, I fully agree with you. And obviously, that she was she had a long history, it turns out, of participating in these left-wing groups. Um, uh, I don't know in detail what that history was, but she did have a history, and she had a history that very morning of trying to block ICE vehicles, and who were perfectly legitimate. I mean, they were there at the order of the president, and his authority. They were there to arrest people who needed to be arrested. There were arrest warrants. It was a perfectly legal operation. But that morning, she had harassed the ICE agents, who are federal agents, uh, and she had tried to block traffic. No question about that. Now you can say, well, all right, she did that. She shouldn't have done it, but she shouldn't have been killed either. I think everybody agrees it would have been better had she followed the law, followed the instructions, and not gotten herself into a situation where she, in effect, militarized a 4,700 pound car, and at least in terms of what the federal government is saying, and she turned it into a weapon. Now, whether she meant to, I don't know. But the reality is, if you look at the photos and look at the conditions around it and the history of that morning, it's hard to believe that she was not guilty of harassment of the police, pri- uh, trying to prevent a perfectly legal action by the police, which is itself a crime. And they want to, what they want to do now, as you know, is they want to take the Minnesota crowd wants to take the trial uh, of the officer away federal government and give it to a state agency, which means giving it to the very people who created the situation.
Yeah.
It is the really another tragedy here is the tragedy of what the Democratic Party has become,
Right.
because these are all Democratic Party officials.
Right. Well, and you can start with the mayor of Minneapolis,
Yes,
who is being interviewed, and he said, I'm paraphrasing, but he said, "Yeah, the car, yeah, she did hit him with the car, but he walked away with no injury."
yeah, which is
And
not
I,
true.
yeah, and I'm sitting there saying, I had a friend years ago in a parking lot who was, accidentally hit by a car. No, obviously. And he didn't have any problems that day, but the next day he had to go in the hospital because he began to have after effect or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, and I didn't, I saw you get hit like that by a car. You're kind of lucky that, I mean, I don't know exactly, I don't know the extent of the officer's injuries, but I wouldn't be, I mean, he could have easily broken his back, or I mean, whatever, done the officer
Yes.
some harm. And if I'm sitting there and a car is coming at me, I've got 1 second, maybe not even that much, to decide whether or not this driver wants to take me out.
Yes.
And any human being, I think, would say, "No, I'm going to defend myself," and he did.
Yes. And I think that's the real story. But there are broadcasters like CNN who are going to try to find the other side of the story, as if there really is another side. Now they might say, well, everything you say is true, um, but she shouldn't have been killed. Well, of course she shouldn't have been killed. She should have driven away peacefully, or answered the warrant. And if the police officer said, "Put your hands on the wheel and lower your window," you do it. That that's a legal order from an officer who is entrusted to give that legal order.
Right. I think there's a couple of things going on too, Bill, and that is they don't believe ICE is a legal organization. I think
Yeah.
some of these people actually do think this is Trump's private army, which is very sad, but that's what they
Yes.
believe. And I also think that this lady just understood that there was, that speeding her car like that would be taken as a threat by any human being.
Yes.
But I think it's really sad. I mean, it's really sad. You have a dead woman, and now I guess Minnesota has something else to talk about instead of the 8 million or whatever $1 billion fraud problem that they have up there.
Yes.
But
And
something's gone crazy. I'm not going to say Minnesota, Bill, Minneapolis, because
yes.
Minnesota still. I mean, if you look at the map of Minnesota, it's interesting. I saw these numbers today. You look at the map of Minnesota, and Trump almost won Minnesota in 2016, almost won it.
Yes.
In 2020, he did lose. And in 2016, he lost by like 5 points, despite the fact that the governor was on the ticket.
Yes.
So
It's a
I,
very close call in terms of the parties in Minnesota.
yeah, it's not this. I mean, Minneapolis is not Minnesota. Maybe I'll say that.
Well, that is true. It is some of the officials in Minnesota today. I don't know about yesterday, but today have some very strange backgrounds. I mean, they've been involved with all kinds of controversial things in the past. The attorney general has an extremely strange background, and they want to run it as a left wing sanctuary state. And in the original dream that this is what a state should be.
Right?
They're not
No,
doing so well.
no, and they're again tragedy. You have a woman who's dead, and now you got these people marching. I don't know where these people get these signs. They all seem to have very nicely manufactured signs.
Yes, they have that's something that interests me as a word person, but there are certain words and slogans that keep reappearing, no matter what the cause, as long as it's a left wing cause. Phrases like "hands off," It's
Right.
hands off Cuba one day, it's hands off Venezuela, hands off Vietnam, hands off my mother, hands off my father. And those phrases keep reappearing because they are phrases used historically by the political left.
Well, they're in the template. I guess if you're going to order
Yes,
some printers, I mean, if you're going to order the printing company, just say, look, give us the same one as the last time,
yes,
but this
the
time just
usual.
yeah, the usual one. But instead of Cuba, put immigrants or whatever, whatever the case may be. But just but something's got to be done. I'll just say one last thing about this. Somebody, the federal government has to come down really hard on these whatever they're called, sanctuary cities. And if you have to arrest a mayor, you're going to have to do that, Bill.
Yes, that's right, and mayors have been arrested here in New York State. The mayor of New York can actually be arrested by the governor of New York. The mayor of New York is vulnerable, and but when they're all controlled by the same crackpots, you're not going to get that action. So here in New York, we've had a sanctuary city situation in New York City, which resulted in a lot of very bad people being out on the street.
Right. And what they say is, they're going after people who are working in restaurants and delivering food. Well, yeah, that may be true that the guys delivering food right now are working in a restaurant. But if you're a police, I mean, if the police is looking for a bank robber, for example, are they going to say, well, we cannot arrest him because he's working in a restaurant now?
Yes,
Or, I mean, it seems to me like they may be working people, and that's fine. That's fine. But if they have a warrant or if they have a letter from a judge saying you have to leave the country and they don't pay attention to that letter, well, you know, people who are here legally don't get to choose what wishes from the court they respect or not respect.
yes,
If I get a letter from a judge, I better pay attention to it, Bill.
absolutely. And if you get those letters or those official communications, they will like a call to jury duty. They will often say, you have to answer this,
Right.
and if you have a reason for not coming to jury duty, fill out this form, and you will be contacted or released, or a date will be changed. But you must communicate. I mean, there are responsibilities of citizenship that are legal responsibilities.
Well, in Texas, a policeman will knock on your door
Yes.
and say, "Did you forget to read your letter?" I mean, this is
Yes.
about jury duty. Did you forget to read your letter? Because you're right, they do give you like a little option there. If you cannot make it today, or
Yes.
if you don't live in this address anymore, yeah, they give you that option. But anyway, what a tragedy up in it. And I'm afraid that what could happen one of these days is that the officer is going to get killed,
Yes. Well,
and
that sure.
that could happen as well. Well, the other big story of the week, Bill, is Iran. A lot of stuff happening in Iran. What is going to come of it, I don't know. But how do you see it? I mean, how do you see the situation? There's lots of people protesting. Trump is threatening military action. I mean, how do you see this thing going forward, Bill?
Well, I see this in very large terms, that this is one of the most critical moments in recent history involving the United States. You have a situation very different from the ones where under the Biden administration, or God knows under the Obama administration, Obama sympathized with the government of Iran, but you have Iran, which is responsible through its subdivisions uh, for some of the worst terrorist incidents in the world, and a nation that is refusing to negotiate the end of its nuclear program, which means it will eventually get a nuclear bomb. And all it takes is one to mess up the world, as people have said. And you have the United States trying in good faith to negotiate with Iran to end its nuclear program, and give up that prospect. And added to that, has come this remarkable series of events in Iran caused by poverty, caused by lack of food, caused by misuse of force by the government, and it has erupted into these huge demonstrations against the Ayatollah, against the government of Iran, and for freedom. And these demonstrations have now spread and spread and spread. The government's response has been violence. Now, by the government, I mean the Ayatollah, the religious government, and it has resulted in many people being killed. We get reports of witnesses seeing bodies lying on the floors of hospitals so people could come and identify them. And these bodies are there because of violence by the religious government. The president has said that this cannot be permitted to happen, and that there is a red line that they are crossing that will require outside intervention. Now, here's where it becomes controversial. There are people in the United States who are saying, "Wait a minute, weren't we supposed to? Wasn't this supposed to be taken care of by some agreement? And why should we have to go back in again to Iran?" Uh, uh, and they are mostly in the Democratic Party, who suddenly have developed this great love of the Iranian government. The demonstrations that we see there are coming from all over Iran, not just Tehran, which is a very important point. It's
Right.
all over Iran. The government, the religious government, is responding with violence, and when they respond with violence, the demonstrations just grow. So you have a situation where, if it is allowed to go on, many more people will be killed by governmental action, by weapons displayed by the religious government, and with that will come probably greater demonstrations. So you have the potential for a real tragedy, and the president is on it, or at least he says he is, and he is saying they are reaching the point where this can no longer be tolerated, and other forces, outside forces, may have to enter. And he is saying, if they do not stop it, we have the means to stop them in a very, very bitter way, which means United States military intervention.
Now, I think that's where and the part of the story I think for me gets interesting because I completely support that President Trump is openly supporting these marches. Compare this to 2009 with President Obama, and when they had those marches back then, and President Obama more or less turned the other way, and we know what happened to that one. They put it down like you remember that one
Oh
back in
yes, of
2000, yeah.
course. And
And
Obama did not seem in the
right, he didn't
slightest
seem
interested.
interested in it. I remember it became a big issue too because there was a young woman who was killed live
Yes,
on TV and all of that. And I think back then the absence of a response from the United States probably broke the back of the demonstrations. Here, I'm
yes,
thinking the opposite could happen. If we get involved, then that'll break the back of the government.
yes,
And that's why I'm hoping that we continue to show support. And if we're going to get involved militarily, I don't have any idea of how to do that, but we could do what Reagan did back in whenever it was. We just took out their navy,
yes.
and maybe we can attack some additional military installations. But whatever President Trump does, it's got to be pretty big.
It has to be big. It has to be
Yeah,
decisive. It has to be decisive. It can't be, well, we're going to go in there with one raid one
right,
night, and that will show them how serious we are, and then we're prepared to negotiate. Now,
right, yeah,
this is something that has come up, that the president said, and I'm not so sure he was so wise to say it, that the Iranian government, which means the Ayatollah's government, has been in touch with the White House, and they are proposing a series of negotiations. And the president's response was, "Well, they would have to stop the killing first, and they're not stopping the killing, and that's where we are right now. The number of deaths is rising. The level of violence and it's throughout Iran. It is not simply in Tehran. Throughout the country is rising. The demonstrations and shouting and screaming are rising, and there is a possibility here for tremendous levels of casualties,
Right.
because if the Iranian government continues to shoot, continues to kill demonstrators, and we don't stop it with extreme force, you could have the possibility of a true massacre, and a surviving Iranian government, which will then say, "Well, now we've won this. Let's have some negotiations."
It's 2009 all over again.
Yes.
And then we'll come up with the Iran nuclear deal version or something
Yes.
that as we saw back then. But I agree with you. I think if you're going to get involved, you really have to hit them so hard that they don't get up.
That's exactly right.
Now,
This would have to be a final curtain for the
right,
Iranian regime. It would have to involve force on our part all over the country, and it would have to involve the end of the Iranian regime as we know it, and a call by the president: rise up, we are with you.
right. No, I think you're right. That's exactly how I feel. Otherwise, don't even bother because it's not, unless you are going in. It's like the old expression, if you say you're going to take Vienna, take Vienna.
Yes,
Well,
that's
if
right.
you, there's almost something like that. I mean, you got to take out these people. Uh, I also think the collapse of Iran or of the current government Iran would have such incredible peaceful consequences, if I could put it
Yes,
that way, in the world because they have been the problem, the source of so much. Uh, I mean, they're the reason. I mean, look, the Israelis, who are they fighting? They're fighting Iran.
yes,
And who's behind all of these things? Iran.
yes.
So you take away Iran, I mean,
And
it's
very possibly other countries that are aligned with Iran. Iran is the religious government is aligned with Russia, with other countries that are hostile and enemies of the United States. We call the United States the
the great Satan.
yes, sorry, the great Satan. Israel is the little Satan, and the
Yes.
United States is the great Satan. And their aim is to see the United States eliminated.
Right.
That is their great dream.
Well, Bill, I guess I'm old enough to remember when the Shah fell
Yes.
and everybody predicted all these terrible things that were going to happen to Iran. Most of them have in fact been pretty bad over the years. And I'm not saying the Shah was a perfect man; he wasn't. But at least you didn't have, Iran under the Shah was not supporting terrorism everywhere. So
No,
hopefully,
under the Shah, Iran was a dictatorship. We don't deny that.
yeah,
And at times, somewhat harsh dictatorship, but they weren't shooting at us.
right.
They were friendly to us, and you didn't have this nationwide religious fanaticism, which is absolutely frightening. And even though we objected to the Shah being an unelected official, he was our unelected official in a sense that he wasn't firing at us. And
Well, it's not
but
like he was it's not like he was surrounded by a bunch of democracies either.
no,
I mean,
no,
this is the thing that people forget. I mean, that's the kind of government that they have there. But maybe I'm too cynical when I look at these things. But what I'm looking at is, what is this dictator doing to promote instability?
yes,
And as long as he, takes care of his country and doesn't get involved somewhere else, then okay. I'm not saying he's perfect,
no.
but I mean, you compare the Shah with these guys running the country now. Give me the Shah anytime, Bill.
Well, of course, but that wasn't what we were told when all this got started back in well,
79.
in
Well,
in
78, really.
'79, when one Jimmy Carter was president of the United States, and when the first Ayatollah announced that he was coming back to Iran from France. I think he was living in France at the time, and he was going to take over the country and run it for the benefit of the people. That guy was referred to almost in godlike terms by allies of the United States, who said he is now we are now going to see an end to any problems with Iran, and this man is godlike. He's a holy man. Well, the holy man turned out to be a holy fool
Right.
and a violent criminal. But that wasn't what we were told by Jimmy Carter and his pals. It was
Right.
even worse later on when similar events occurred, and Barack Obama was the president. Barack Obama had a great deal of sympathy for the religious government. I mean, he was a real, after all, his middle name is Hussein. He is of that people in some way. And when the people of Iran erupted in 2009, he basically didn't want to do a thing about it.
Right. Well, I'm hoping that this is the end of the regime. I think the world is going to be safer and more peaceful if that happens. I'm not there now. There's going to have to be a transition, and it's a little bit like in Venezuela, or potentially could happen in Cuba as well, where there's a bit of a transition there to a change. But look, I can tell you that Latin American countries have come under the influence of Iran, and that's not good for anybody.
No.
So I don't know. I just feel like this is the moment to end it. But if you're going to do it, you're going to have to really hit them so hard that they don't have a clue. Well, one last quick thing, Bill, that I wanted to say here. So much on the
Sure.
table, but there was some news, economic news, that we could be having a 5% GDP growth here at the end of 25,
That
and
would be wonderful.
that would be some promising economic news, which I hope is the case, because to me, I think everybody's better off when the economy is doing better, whether you voted for this guy or that guy. So hopefully that's what comes out, better economic news. And this thing with Greenland is really interesting, Bill. We don't have a lot of time to get into it now, but what I wish somebody in the media would ask the following question of these Democrats who are criticizing Trump over Greenland. I said, and the question I would ask Bill is this: who would you rather have uh, navigating ships around Greenland in 20 years? Chinese submarines or American submarines? Because that's what it
Yes,
comes down to
it
me.
sure does.
I mean, it's a piece of land. There's not a lot of people there anyway. So it's not like, gee, huge populations. And yes, Denmark, but look, Denmark is just a nice European country, very nice people, but they're not doing a heck of a lot in Greenland. But I'd rather have American ships in those waters than Chinese ships. That's my
Oh,
feeling, Bill.
absolutely, absolutely, and I think we may make some progress in that respect, but all in the end, I think we will get is more cooperation from Denmark, maybe some concessions, maybe some approval of American training troops
Yeah.
in there. We're not going to get everything we want, but it's amazing that it was Donald Trump who brought this up. This whole idea that we need greater defense in that area, which is a critical area of the world. Nobody was even talking about it. Now they all these nutcases say, well, he didn't talk about it during the campaign. I mean, well, how can he bring it up now? I mean, he's a dictator, and I never saw anybody from Greenland hurting us. I mean, we have to remember what the Democratic Party is. It's not the party of Roosevelt, Truman, and Kennedy.
No.
This is the party of Barack Obama, and even
Or
regarding Iran, Obama during his administration was very sympathetic to the religious government, as I said before. He wanted to have a situation in the Middle East where our main ally was Iran, and we would kind of kick Israel out of it. Well, for some reason, that didn't appeal to too many people.
No, that
So,
didn't. Even a lot of Democrats, because
yes,
he couldn't get the Iran nuclear deal through the Senate
that's right.
um,
As a
when he had
treaty.
the treaty, when he had plenty of Democrats. I think he had 54, and he couldn't get it through. Well, anyway, something to think about. I thought the silliest. One more last thought on Greenland. I thought the silliest thing I ever heard this week was that somehow we were going to go to war with NATO over Greenland.
Yes. Look, there are so many silly comments coming. And right now, one of the great tragedies of American politics right now is that we essentially have a one-party country. There
Right.
really is no Democratic Party. The Democratic Party is dead and buried, at least for a while. And what it amazes me in this entire situation that we face is that no one has attempted to start a third party, a third party that would represent the great majority, or at least a very large chunk of the American people. You would think somebody would. It's an ideal circumstance.
Well, certainly a lot of Democrats who are not comfortable with Mandani
Yeah.
or the mayor of Seattle or whatever. Well, Bill, as always, thank you so much for your time. I can just tell we're going to have a lot to get into next week,
A
and
great
because
deal.
a lot of these issues are not going away; they're coming back.
Yes.
But I tell you, by the way, you mentioned President Truman. He was talking about Greenland.
Yes.
I read
Yes.
that the other day that he was the one talking about it. I guess that would have been in the early 50s. So he knew the importance of it back
Yes.
then. Well, Bill, thank you for your time. Have a great day. And how's the weather? I didn't ask you.
I I'll have to turn around to find out. Looks pretty good.
Well, pretty good.
Uh,
Okay.
Pretty good. It gets dark very early here
Yes,
now,
same here.
and it's cold out, and they expect some weather, real weather, by the end of the week. So I'll give you a full report next week.
Yeah, and make sure you get batteries, like you always tell me.
Yeah, I guess I did actually in the last week got a whole bunch of batteries, and so I'm very well equipped.
So if you have to go remote, you got the batteries.
Got that.
All right. Thank you, Bill. Have a great day as always.
Oh, and same to you, Silvio. Speak to you next week.
See you the next time. Our good friend Bill Katz, the editor of Urgent Agenda, touching base with him like we like to once a week. Iran, big topic. Sanctuary cities, big topic. Greenland, interesting topic. Again, my point is simple when it comes to that country or that territory or whatever it is. Who would you rather have parking submarines in that place? Chinese submarines or American submarines? That's where it's going. One of those two. So that's why Greenland is a vital interest to the U.S. Thank you for listening. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye, everybody.